Today's episode is brought to you by Papa Jeff for finally giving us 222.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. And joining, I didn't know if you were gonna chime in or not.
I didn't know if you were gonna leave me a spot, Blevins. I don't know. It's only 174 episodes. We'll get it done.
We'll get. You know what? In the 360th one, we'll do it. And joining us today from YourOverwatch, the one and only Freedo. What's up, buddy?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
Is this your first time on Flagship? You've been on Around the Payload a number of times. I think you're the only person with 2 wins on Around the Payload.
Flawless victory. I kind of wanted to retire. I was invited on last week, but I saw there was a stacked lineup, and I just dodged that match altogether. It took a bye week. Like, I'm not going against Mushu and Katrina, I think. They were heavy hitters up there, so I needed to peace out. But
as somebody on that lineup, I'll just sit here and be offended that I wasn't one of the heavy hitters. But that's fine, Freedo. We'll argue today where there's no points up for grabs.
The shit. Oh, we don't. I mean, we
did say we're going to be pointing just Freedo, but it'll be behind the scenes. You know.
Well, we don't know that. There could be points added at any time. All right, we had that bit ready. Actually, we didn't plan it, but it was there. But we started the pre-show off wacky, and I'm gonna try my best to keep us on track here, as we have a lot. And I mean a lot to talk about going into this week. Not just about Overwatch League, just, it's a big one. But before we jump into that, wanted to really quickly talk a little housekeeping here. Of course, all of our High Noon production shows are on Spotify. Make sure you check those out. Search High Noon Productions on Spotify. You can get them all. As Freedo alluded, last week we did have a new episode of Around the Payload. We had Katrina Weil, I'm pretty sure I pronounced that correctly.
You did.
I hope. Okay, good. Mushu Beef, the one and only Deathblow, who's on the show right now. The triumphant return of Gilfrost, a.k.a. the left guy. It's a great episode. Make sure you check that out. Of course, Blackwatch Report is also going to have a new episode coming out, and Foul Play should also be having a new episode, and they might be going over something that we'll be talking about very soon as well, as there's a new, I guess, pseudo fantasy coming out, and this time it's official from Overwatch League, so that's exciting. We will be talking about that very soon as we go over
It's high
news. God, that sound drop took too long to play. Got a little bit of, man, we got like a mishmash of news, a pitter-patter of news all over the place. Let's start with the roster changes. Optidox has joined the Toronto Defiant as the assistant coach, being pulled up from the Montreal Rebellion. Do we know anything about Optidox or his past? Or
I know the city's pronounced Montreal.
What did I say?
I don't know Montreal or something. I don't know. It was just
Montreal.
Yeah, it was just a slightly weird pronunciation of it.
But Montreal Rebellion. There you go.
I don't know a ton about these. I didn't get a chance to talk to Thornrain about him going into it, but obviously we know Montreal had a pretty good success record in contenders, I believe, last season. So they had a strong performance there, and I think it's just a really good fit considering they just brought in a whole slew of players from that team. So now we've got a coaching staff that can come along with them, somebody they're used to working with, and I think it's just, I mean, listen, we've talked about this a lot. More coaches is almost always better for your Overwatch League team, assuming they're competent and not steering you in the complete wrong direction. More eyes, more people to provide analysis, to assist and help is always a good thing. Freedo, do you know anything about Optidox?
I think I follow him on Twitter, and that's about it. But I do definitely echo the more coaches thing. Unless there's personality clashes
Right.
or
Mhm.
like a structural problem where you know what I mean. Like no matter what, if there's a smart guy in the room who can see something a different way and raise his hand and be like, well, what if we just try this? Even if it's just that, like once a week, sometimes it can just steer the momentum of a team in another direction. So I'm all for it. There's some teams that are dramatically undercoached. We can talk about them later, but Toronto's a team that I think can benefit from this because they finally do have some tools and some weapons, especially going into this new format.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Bishop sort of steering the ship, I think all the help he can get is just going to be all good things for Toronto. So definitely excited about that. Another big piece of news here: Izayaki has gone from the LA Valiant to the Shanghai Dragons. So this maybe explains why we're seeing a little bit less of Izayaki previously, who's on his way out, and the world beater, at least in the stage playoffs. Shanghai Dragons have now picked up a flex support that was quite good in the previous stages here. Freedo, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts here on Izayaki going to Shanghai?
This is quite a puzzler, and it might just be because he's Korean, I guess. But no, Kariv is Korean. But I think his English is pretty good because like Valiant are doing this weird thing, right, where they're kind of just trying to move a bit towards a Western play style or team structure, I would say. And maybe Kariv's English is good enough. Both of them look really strong. But Kariv, we've seen him pop off. Izayaki was more, like, statistically one of the scariest Zens during the GOATS meta, which didn't make much sense. I know you guys talk about fantasy a lot. That goes over my head. But I know he farms up great fantasy points, talk about a lot.
Did.
Right, yes.
Carried
so many wins under my belt.
Me.
So I've been thinking about this more and more because whenever you see a player get hyped before the Overwatch League, I'm very skeptical to be like, yeah, you'll just come in and do work. However, the one thing that's kind of rang true is that if you're a mechanical beast at flex support, I think you can easily just sort of jump in and be a mechanical beast on stage in the Overwatch League. Not the other roles aren't necessarily the same because there's more communication, there's more, a dueling matchup. Whereas on flex support, you're kind of in the back, there's targets in front of you, can you hit them or can't you? Like it's pretty much that. So moving forward, Izayaki's probably just a safe bet. Other guys like Violet, I think, look strong as well. Sometimes their ult usages are kind of whack, and I think Izayaki definitely looked that way. But he at times looked mechanically stronger than Kariv, which is weird to me to want to let that go. But I guess it's just under the philosophy of the team now.
Yeah, I completely agree personally. I thought Izayaki was mechanically more gifted than Kariv. I do agree that I think the team has played better with Kariv in the lineup than they did with Izayaki. I think that speaks to, not that I think he's the shot caller in an all-Western team, Kariv, but, I just think it speaks to team synergy, and it didn't quite work out with the LA Valiant. We talked about when he kind of hit the bench, where we thought he might go. Were they looking to get rid of him? And to me, this is almost a perfect fit because now he's joining the Shanghai Dragons team that is on fire at the moment. And it might seem a little weird, do you really want to make a change when they're performing like they're performing now? But to me, the biggest weakness of the Shanghai Dragons was the support line. I thought Luffy and Como, while strong and good, like they're not really like costing them games. I just thought there was some room for improvement there, and I think specifically in the flex support position was the one that came to mind a little more than the others. So I think this gives them a lot of upside potential, maybe increases their high end, their ceiling, but it has the potential to go the other direction. I mean, just because I think Izayaki might be more mechanically gifted, just like with Kariv, it doesn't mean the team's going to play better with him in there. So it's going to be really interesting and I think fun to watch and see how the Shanghai Dragons manage this. How do they handle a transition if we're facing a transition, or just generally what their plan is here behind this? Or could this just be, we wanted him here now so that way we could control re-signing him, bringing him in for season 3, and maybe that's when they make the switch. I really don't know. But I love this move from the Shanghai Dragons side because it just, to me, backups are better than not having backups. We talk about that all the time. You want to have, in my opinion, if you can afford it, 12 teams or 12 players on your roster at all times. So that way you can, just be immune to anybody getting sick or anything like that. But also just the sheer, mechanical ability and upside of Izayaki, I think, is higher than what the Shanghai Dragons previously had. So it represents an opportunity, but there is some risk to go along with that as well. So it's going to be a bit of a balancing act it's late in the year to make a move like that for a successful team, but I'm excited to see him play in his new home.
Yeah, it seems like the teams are favoring, like you said, team synergy and being a cohesive unit over maybe raw mechanical on paper skills. And I think that's
it could very well be possible that the Shanghai Dragons just don't need more fragging power in their starting six that goes out onto the roster. But I don't think it hurts to have it at least in the building. So,
yeah, I think at least from LA's perspective, like that's a philosophical choice that they're making, and I mean, I guess we'll see how it ends up paying off here. But Izayaki may have wanted to move as well. I mean, Noah Winston a while ago, back in season 1, talked about the philosophy of the team and how they're going to have backups and people are going to be playing for spots. And maybe he just didn't want to do that. Maybe he wanted to be maybe he had a deal with Shanghai where he comes in as a starter. So we'll see. Definitely learn a little. We'll have a little bit of a better picture painted after this week and see if Izayaki actually ends up playing with Shanghai.
One quick point before we move on, though. I just wanted to say, Luffy popped off in the playoffs, though. I agree that Izaki Zen is definitely better of the 3 players we're kind of talking about in this triangle. But it's strange that both Kariv and Luffy have been popping off on Ana. The interesting thing about that is aiming her main weapon is really key, but I think the contextual ability usage, like hitting sleeps and nades, Luffy's sleeps and nades were insane. So I can't if I'm right, I would assume Ana is one of the best supports for 2-2-2, and I don't think Zen, except maybe in Mercy Zen, maybe they do run that. They do have Komu who likes the Mercy, so maybe Izayaki comes in on the Zen role, and Luffy probably still sticks on the Ana, I would assume.
Yeah, we talked about that after the playoffs, how I really thought even somebody that thinks they've, typically one of the weaker ends of the roster, I really thought the support line was like the MVP, especially in the finals of the stage playoffs as well.
A ton of sleeps, a ton of early picks. You couldn't see them on the broadcast, but if you watch back on the viewer, Luffy's just getting sleeps all over the place that resulted in picks.
Yeah, the support line really popped off, so it makes the timing a little more suspect. But again, I think it speaks to upside, and if you ignore the potential disruption of synergy or whatever that might happen, it's all good news. But yeah, who knows how it'll actually play out, because that team was obviously performing pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the biggest impact change that we saw in this past week, but maybe not, because we saw Bishu and Fraggy move to the Guangzhou Charge, the perfect reality that I didn't predict it. I just wanted it to happen, where Fraggy goes to Toronto Defiant. Did not happen. We're seeing Fraggy from the Philadelphia Fusion and Bishu from the LA Gladiators move to the Guangzhou Charge. Deathblow, what's your take on this?
Well, I think, first of all, Bishu's great for this team. I know Hotba's been very good, but Bishu was talked about as like the glue of the Gladiators last season when they had their mixed language roster. His ability to in-game translate between the two of them, I think, is really, really potentially beneficial for a team like Guangzhou, who I don't know that their performance has ever really matched up to the level of talent that it looks like they have on an individual basis when you just look at the roster. So I think he's got the opportunity to see playtime just as a way to revamp their communication structure and to really help them, the left brain communicate with the right brain within this roster. And then looking at the other signing here, Fraggy, I mean, listen, I've been on the Fraggy train for a long time. Thank God he got traded. He's out of jail. He's not in Philadelphia. He was the best tank in Philly, and I don't think it was necessarily super, super close. But just was on the bench anyways. I worry that we're facing the same thing here, but I will say I think he's slightly better than Rio. I think people are really sleeping on Fraggy, and they forgot how improved his Winston play was by the time he was done in Season 1. I thought he was easily the most improved player from like Contender Season 1 to Overwatch League Season 1. He really seemed to thrive in the environment. I thought the talk about his over-aggression was really kind of over-discussed and over-highlighted. It was something he got a lot better at. And it also, I thought, wasn't always necessarily his fault. He was playing on Philly and like Moth metas with his Mercy had the gun out like 50% of the time, or at least way more often compared to everybody else in the league. And so I don't know. I would personally love to see, and nobody's going to be surprised to hear me say I would love to see Fraggy start for this team going into stage 4.
Fraggy in.
But I think, this gives them another option, right? Clearly what they're doing now isn't good enough, so they need a shakeup, and I think a tank line is a really great way to get a very different style or performance out of your team without changing, all 6 players. You can do a lot and make your team very different with just the 2 frontline tank players switching. So on a power level and ranking the players against each other, I think honestly all of the tanks are kind of very close to each other, at least among their competition. But I think this is just from a communication standpoint, I think Bishu offers them the potential to level up a lot. And then Fraggy, love him or hate him, if he's too aggressive, if he dies sometimes, fine. The man puts people on the ground. He gets on the kill feed. He gets kills. He makes plays. I've always been a fan of playmakers, even if they have holes in their game and weaknesses and cause team fight losses at times. I think it's huge and very important to get big plays from a main tank player. And I think Fraggy has that in a way that we've not necessarily seen Rio do too much. So, Freedo, what are your thoughts on these 2 joint charge?
I'd agree with all your points, especially the Bishu one. I think is really well stated. However, to go against that a bit is that I think the strategy of having a mixed language team for a Chinese team just seems really dumb to me. I just think it's a terrible idea. So yeah, if you were like, you know what, we need the best guy who can translate mid-match, find me that guy. It's like, right, get him on the horn. And I'm like,
get me Bishu on the horn.
Yeah, like Bishu's the one guy to do that job, but why are we even trying to do that? Didn't they just trade away Kib, which was like one of their best English-speaking players?
I was going to say, they did offload one of the English speakers too, so that might be less important now than before, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah, what are we even doing? Like, what's our goal? That's what I want to know, and I feel that they're just going to sort of spin in a circle with this change, where it isn't really moving them in a direction. They're not going to have a unified whole. Luckily, Happy is nutty. If I'm right, Happy's on this team, right?
Yes.
Yes. Widow make, okay. I think this is a Widow meta. They have Happy, so even if the tank line is a mess, like we could have a situation where they have enough weapons to at least be like middle of the table. Because right now I feel like most people would say they're probably underperforming from where their talent level is, and I still think like trying to do some sort of Overwatch baseline communication where you're speaking multiple languages or a bad English for everybody. I just think that's silly. I think that was a poor decision, but it's the best with the strategy they went with. So good luck.
Yeah, any team with Happy and Shu on it should have a fighting chance. So hopefully the added tank options give them the ability to rotate to find something that just has some magic to it that the old roster configuration.
Oddly enough, they might look like Philly from last year. Like they might look like a mess. It's like, oh, we're all speaking English. We're from different countries. We have these insane talents, but we, our communication's terrible, or or we play sloppy like that. They're probably the same team.
So they're going to the grand finals. You heard it here from Freedo first.
Yeah, I don't take that.
Guangzhou Charge to the grand finals. Wouldn't be your craziest prediction today, Freedo, but that's just me teasing a little bit later down the line.
Yeah, we'll certainly get to that in a bit. The underpinning in there, and I guess we kind of alluded to it a bit, is that Kib went from Guangzhou Charge to the Philadelphia Fusion. Any other thoughts on that particular move?
Nope.
Enjoy the bench. The QO is a madman.
It's
really
good. I think Philly traded one bench player they weren't going to use for another bench player they weren't going to use, and it gives them a backup maybe in a spot where. But I mean, what heroes don't those two have in their hero pool? Like, what have we ever seen EQO pick something up and play it poorly? No. Carpe just plays whatever he plays, and he defines the meta with his Widow play and things like that.
Zarya, which isn't a thing anymore.
Right. But yeah, that's fine. You can now the DPS can be bad at off tank role, and that's okay. But yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to see if Kib even hits the stage. I think but I can't see it personally. If we were still outside 222, maybe they make a move like that so that way they can participate in some of the 3 DPS lineups that we saw some of the teams running, but now with that gone, they should have just gotten money for Fraggy.
I will say though, like I'm trying to think of this from Kib's point of view, because I'm like, why would you go from being bench A to bench B? Maybe Philly, other than the Fraggy situation, because supposedly doesn't get along with Carpy or whatever, other than that, Philly is a team that historically has integrated players to get play time on certain maps and subbing them in. And they have an academy team that's amazing as well. Maybe there's a two-way going on. I think Kib's good enough to play somewhere. It's just he's not going to play on this team much. Right. But Philly may incorporate him against some matchups that I haven't looked at their schedule fully for the whole stage. So maybe there is some teams that they're like, oh, Kib, go in there and see what you can do.
Yeah, if Kib sought this out, I'd say it was almost because he was hoping to well, if I'm going to be on the bench, I'd rather be on the bench for a team that might send me down to play on their top contenders team. That would be kind of my thing. So that way I'm showing more of my ability while also drawing an Overwatch League salary and being on the roster and all those right. perks and benefits as well.
We haven't said this either. Is there some sort of player stock that goes up just by getting traded? Because how you don't get to get on stage, right? And that's bad. And there's a player rot and you eventually decay as a player. And it's like, oh, I'm still good. Oh, we haven't seen you in 2 years. But if you can convince someone to trade you, even if you don't get on the stage, maybe that sort of raises your profile a bit. Like, hey, I just recently got traded, so someone's interested.
So,
right?
Someone wanted me. So
right. Yeah, to a certain extent, that has to at least subconsciously factor in, right? If he doesn't renew his contract with Philly and he hits the open free agency going into next season, and it's just, people go, well, Philly saw something. They traded for him. They could have just gotten money. So you'd think it would have to almost at least subconsciously enter into the thought. I'm not saying they're using it or, changing their opinion based off of it, but it has to enter into it at some point, you would think.
We'll see this in year 3, I think, a lot, where players had that kind of trajectory and a lot of shakeups next year.
Yeah, we're expecting a ton of shakeups for next year.
If I'm Kib, I probably would be happier playing for Fusion University than Guangzhou Charge anyway. So, I guess we'll wait and see.
At least before Fraggy was on the team.
True. Last roster move here for this week is Munchkin has been moved to Seoul's inactive roster. Freedo, what's the
wait? They have an inactive roster? Sorry, I didn't even read. As opposed to what? They're starting A and starting B team?
Yeah, this is bench.
This is what normal teams call the bench. Okay, this is what normal teams just call. You know what I mean? What's the distinction for? I don't get it.
I didn't get it when London did this last year. Why announce to the world, right? There's such a thing. If you're changing your starting quarterback in the NFL, you don't come out there and give people 2 weeks notice so they can prepare for the new guy. You just show up and do it.
Not preparing for Seoul, okay?
Right? Well, that might be its own thing, but
maybe
at the same time,
Seoul.
Now you can start to. The only reason this makes sense to me is that he basically retired just like Fissure did. And it's just that the team has gotten the players to buy in so much, and they just want what's best for the Seoul dynasty. So one by one, they're quitting so that eventually they make it down to a solid 6 starting roster that can actually, improve and get better over time and maybe do something when the regular season playoffs get here. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. I don't know. Maybe we should just expect more of them to quit.
So that doesn't mean he didn't say he retired though. So he could.
No, he didn't. For clarity's sake, they moved him to an inactive spot on their roster. That is how they announced.
Not have to pay him then monthly? Is that freeze his contract? Because in the NFL, if someone breaks their leg, you're like, okay, he's off the roster. Then we can occupy that slot with another player. Well, I don't even know if Seoul that even counts for Seoul.
I'm going to stop you right there, Freedo, because what you're asking for is transparency. And I did 45 minutes on transparency last episode. So I know for a fact there's at least one person in Discord that doesn't want to hear about it.
Footnote. We'll just footnote to the last episode. Then.
We'll just
check out
last episode if you want to know why I'm frustrated and why this is an impossible question to answer.
Maybe this is for Seoul. Maybe Seoul is self-realizing now. They understand they have a problem, okay? But they can't, solve the problem right away. So they're going through steps. It's kind of like a growing process. So they're saying, okay, Munchkin is on our inactive roster. So now we've publicly said we can't play him. We need to be held to this, and the fans need to hold us to this. So we're gonna just put it publicly. It's like writing it on a piece of paper and then burning the paper. It gives you something. You feel better about it.
Right.
I have no idea. But I guess we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw Munchkin. If we just saw Munchkin next week.
It's just another string of things that the Soul Dynasty have done that make me think nobody's told them they bought a team in a sports league yet.
Right.
Like they just think, oh, we're gonna go play some video games and it'll be on stream and it'll be great. Like it's almost like they haven't realized this is a league where at the end you want to be the best team, and it's just they're awkward, and I just can't wrap my head around.
Yeah, little bit awkward. But we're still in the news section here. We're only about I would say we're not even halfway through, but we're done with the roster moves here. We did get I would call it kind of a random announcement today, but a welcome one at that. Overwatch League Picks has been introduced. If you are a listener of the show and you're a fan of the High Noon Pick'ems, very similar to that, except you're making these picks while you're watching matches. So it's right on the Twitch overlay. You can pick the winner of the match that you're watching, and you can get Overwatch League tokens if you're right. And I think there might be other little achievements and whatnot in there for picking the right Overwatch League team. So a little bit more engagement. I guess not quite fantasy, but it's pushing the needle a little bit more towards maybe Overwatch League sanctioned fantasy and whatnot. But Death, what do you think? We're getting real pick'ems now.
All I know is the idea of it, because I didn't get a chance to even read the article yet. Like I'm super
It's not
busy
even
at
an
work.
article. It's like
I got home, but there's a video. There's a play button in the middle of it where it makes me want to watch it.
No.
And I haven't even been able to do that yet.
It's nothing.
Pick'ems have never been my game. I'll say that much, right? So I think it's great that Overwatch League is doing this. It's awesome. It's the way we wanted it to go from the beginning. It feels a little late to me, but better late than never. So I don't know. I know nothing about it. I'm going to give it a try, and I guess I'll have to get back to you guys after I've had a chance to use it and play it. And I think there's like picking maps and stuff, so it might be a little more granular than the kind of pick'ems we had, or at least closer to the pick'ems we had last year. So I don't know. I've got a reserve judgment on this one, other than about time.
It's definitely a good addition, though. It's the type of thing that I think fans want out of the league. So, like, something's better than nothing. So the beta of this is good. I would say I prefer, like, Winston's Lab lets you do percentage picks, which I think makes a lot more sense. Like, this is more of a casual, like, green team or whatever, like that's more user friendly. But percentage picks makes a lot more sense, because you might think an upset's about to happen, but you don't want to look like an idiot and be like, I 100% pick Florida to win. I'd rather say I 51%, just barely above 0.5%, or of a percent to
Spoilers.
Say they'll win, right? And like, yeah. So
Freedo, you would have loved our cowards 3-0s, is how we worded it. We were all about the cowards 3-0s and pick them last year.
True.
Yeah, so in some ways pick'ems are kind of boring, because really you should just pick the favorite team all the time, and because like the way it works out, it's hard to explain. There's strategy behind it and blah blah blah, but it makes going for upsets bad. Whereas if you were picking a favorite team with a percentage pick, well, it might be like NYXL 99%. And if you put that, then you're like really saying they're going to win, right? Whereas these really close matches, they might actually literally be 60-40s, and you just got unlucky or whatever. And there was no way for you to buffer from that loss. So that format is much closer to, what you actually think, and shows more about your ability to analyze the games. But
yeah, I will say,
talk. Who cares?
I love that you can like use this to like gain league tokens to get more skins. Like that is an awesome integration. That's something only Blizzard could have done with it. So there's plenty about this that I think is great from the little bit I've seen so far. But I'm just hesitant to give a firm opinion on it, because I know that it's out, and I've read like 2 of the paragraphs in the post.
There's only about 2 more paragraphs that you need to read. But yeah, no, I think everything you said is right, guys. It's a good thing. It's better than nothing. It is, I think, extremely intro level. I mean, we got to think big picture here. This is still like basically most of the stuff that Overwatch League is putting out, especially this like engagement stuff, is going to be made for normies. When we get the normies from Disney XD, when we get the normies from ESPN, like, you don't want to overcomplicate them with this stuff. Now, maybe if it's like very analogous to sports, sports stuff, we can get that, but then maybe you're alienating some of the gameplay. They need to be. I think they're erring on the side of simplicity and easiness, especially from a UI perspective. So I'm fine with them easing us into this. Like, get very basic stuff. Like, we're still just getting Overwatch League tokens. There's really only one thing you can buy with Overwatch League tokens, which is fine because there's a lot of skins. But I think this is more like building the infrastructure of what could be, the engagement piece of it with the league and with the online portion of it, and they need an introductory thing, and also just to test it. It is they announced it as the Overwatch League Picks beta, so it is. I mean, whatever that means, but it's not their finished product. I mean, you can slap beta on anything and say it's not ready, but
all I know is I should be getting Overwatch League tokens for my performance as the High Noon Podcast Discord Stage 3 Power Rankings Champion. At least 500 tokens. Get on it, Jeff.
I mean, you would if you weren't exempt from winning the contest. You could get Overwatch League tokens, but they'd be coming out of your paycheck. So you can buy tokens whenever you want.
I'll reward myself. Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know how much we want to get into this because it did happen basically right after we had the show last week. So a lot of the shows have talked about this, and we talked about this on Around the Payload. But Overwatch League 2020 was announced. We are getting homestands. We're getting a number of homestand weekends, different variable number of homestands for the team, and this is all old hat almost at this point. We had so much other new stuff and big things coming, but I guess at a high level, what are your thoughts on Overwatch League 2020, the home games, the whole kit and caboodle, Freedo, for Overwatch League 2020?
Okay, I'll try to run through this. You guys did do a good job talking about all this stuff on Around the Payload.
Well,
so
I don't want to take any credit for that.
Go through it too much, but
I'll take 1/4 of the credit.
One quarter portions.
I would say I'm slightly concerned that there'll be annoying numbers of homestands for teams we don't want to have more homestands for one reason or another. Either like they're the better team and they get home field advantage, and it feels like, even if it's perceived or something, right? Mm-hmm. You just don't want that to be a complaint. The other side of the coin is I think Washington has 5 or something like that. It's like, please, dear God, bench Janice before then. Like, Jesus, like Corey, sick. Watch Corey play Widow every single day of the week. But, like that could be really strenuous. It already felt like some of the worst teams in the league play every other day as it is. There's like a recurring meme about that where every game you turn on, it's like the worst teams possible. And to that point, I'll smoothly transition to, I know I have quite a bit of a disagreement with you guys on the stage playoffs. But I was convinced by some of the arguments on the last show. So now I get to look smart after learning from those. So as they are now, definitely they're not fair because the strength of schedule is BS. And they're not worth anything, so why should the teams try? And okay, that's all true. But I will say, as far as the scheduling is concerned and the format of a playoff tournament bracket, that should be incorporated in Overwatch League somehow. I don't know how necessarily to do it, but my biggest concern is that next year we will literally only get NYXL versus Vancouver once, and this year it happens at the last game of the season. Like, I think that's terrible. And granted, I know regular sports do this, but I think with, like I just said, keep seeing those same bad teams just going through week by week, and it's going to be on every single weekend. Sure. And I would just like ways for us to see the better matchups, the hot matchups, earlier, sooner, more often. And I think the tournament structure weeds bad teams out. It's been esports for years and years and years now. Tournament structure means you jump in a group stage, you grind out, you get a lot of reps, you try to fight your way through losers brackets, all those types of things that are esports standard. The league is just sort of ignoring, like, all that history. It doesn't exist. And meanwhile, I think those make for the best matchups, the best storylines, and we're kind of losing that just because, we have a league structure and regionalization is our goal, so let's just have worse matches. And I'm like, that's a big loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's apart from what I said on Around the Payload last week. You guys can kind of get a little bit more of my opinion there. But I do like what you said. I mean, it's frustrating that a team can perform so poorly in their inaugural season in Washington and then walk away with 5 home games. What is that going to do? And I'm not as worried. Are we going to get less of the good games or whatever like that? I don't think that's an issue because the other teams are going to be going there, right? Like, it's not just going to be Washington against their teams. It's going to be, a full half of 2 days worth of teams are going to show up and play their games there. So I think that'll be fine. But aren't those storylines enhanced or better, right? If it's Dallas versus Houston, isn't it better if it's in Dallas or Houston, right? Like, isn't that just more entertaining? Same thing goes for Boston, New York. Those games are better in the home markets because the home market is where the rivalry is felt. It's where it lives. And right now, I think a lot of Overwatch League fans wouldn't recognize a rivalry between the New York Excelsior and the Boston Uprising. But I'll bet you New York native fans will recognize that there's a rivalry between them and Boston because there's teams in both of those cities. And as long as that's true, they hate each other. I'm right there with you, New York. But so I think we may have hurt ourselves a little bit in the quality of the storylines that we're going to get and how maybe we left a little on the table by giving 5 to Washington but at the end of the day I'm not sure it was avoidable because I don't think all the teams are prepared logistically and organizationally to host that many games and some of them need a test balloon to know how many seats can we fill before they all want to commit to the biggest arena in their city, I'm sure. But it's probably not the best idea if you can't fill the seats, right? So it's going to take a little bit of trial and error. And I think that this lets the teams that are willing to or to potentially lose that money, right? Like, do we think Washington's going to make money when they host 5 home games and put up all that to secure the venue, all those things? And at the same time, I hear crickets when I ask for Washington Justice fans to speak up in Discord. So I don't know how big and mobilized and excited their fan base is yet. This will certainly help with that.
Is one.
Yes. Well, no, I don't. Honestly, he's harder on them than anybody else because they got rid of Fozzik. So as much as like it's one of those things. Yes, he roots for them, but also he's not what you're talking about when you talk about that kind of. Like me with the Bills. The Bills can just put out a commercial and get me excited about the season as long as they drafted a quarterback within the last 5 years. I don't care. I'm in.
The Bills have been a team your whole life, though. This is not even a whole year that they've been. And I think that.
Well, how could anybody develop a stan relationship as a fan with somebody in Overwatch League if it's only been out for a year and a half?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that you can't do that. I'm saying that you're less likely to, especially if the team's not that good. Right. I think that the homestands, like you said, they give that inherent ability to be a fan of something. I can go and watch a game of almost any sport, and if it's a championship or just a good game, I can be excited about that. If I'm in a crowd, it's good. Like Philly, the grand finals, right? Those games are not very good. The first game was, but London pretty much stomped Philly. But that was super hype because it was a stadium full of people cheering, and those weren't even a stadium full of people cheering for one team. Now, it could backfire if there's just not Washington fans there. But I just from the number of people in our Discord, which is not the biggest sample size in the world, but is not a small number either. The number of people who are oh man, I can't wait for there to be a Chicago team, or oh, I'm in the Midwest, I don't really have a team, so I latch onto this team. There are people in Washington that watch the Overwatch League that are just waiting. Maybe they're not the most vocal because it's hard to be not everyone is a Buffalo Bills, right? Not everyone embraces the we're bad because the Buffalo Bills had the good years in the 90s, right? They had the. Your
muted, by the way.
Muted, but
that's fine. I was saying some things about the Bills, anyways. It's fine.
It's not everyone has that, so I think giving. Not that I don't want Washington Justice to have 5 home games, okay? But I'm not that upset because Deathwell said the other teams are still going to be there. The home field advantage, I think, can help. I think any team getting more popular and getting more engagement is going to be good for everyone in the league. And as far as the schedule, like, as far as we know, the actual games that are being played aren't any different. They're just played at different times potentially. Like, we're still seeing all the teams play against the same exact teams that they did this year. Now, we do only get to see NYXL versus Vancouver once, and we don't have those playoff potential. So that is definitely a negative. But I think overall, I mean, this is what we bought into, right? Like, this is the dream reel.
I didn't buy it.
Well, this is what we
Right.
as the Overwatch League bought into. Like, this is the
For the league's sake, I hope you guys are right, and the regional rivalries matter more. I'm sure that does matter for the local fan base. I just see the online fan base dwarfing it to like such a severe degree. And maybe I'm wrong in that. Maybe there's way more money localizing with local sponsors, and that's really where they want. It's just that I think you just look at this year. We had a bad meta, and the stage finals were always sick, including Stage 3's playoff run from the Dragons, which I think easily was the best stage playoff ever in the past 2 years, right? And we're just losing that altogether. And by the way, it's not like the Dragons, we'd be able to see them play those 3 top teams next year, or if we just didn't have stage playoff this year, like the only way they could play them in that order through a bracket run like that is if we have a playoff, and it only happens now at the end of the year, which I think is a waste. I'd like to see the schedule restructured and for us to somehow get brackets and playoffs somewhere, checkpoints in the season, or split up the season in 2 seasons, season A, season B. Like, I don't know, like whatever you got to do, right? But just more playoffs.
I think
who won the Stage 3 playoffs this year? I don't even. Me and history already forgot. It's over. It's gone. No, I'm kidding. I'm a notorious hater of it. So
I think that there's pluses and minuses to the stage playoffs, and I think that taking them away inherently does something to the league, and it makes it so it's not broken up. But like, I mean, I'm not going to use baseball as an example because baseball 2019 omega lull. But like basketball, or I guess non-football sports, because football only plays 16 regular season games, something like that. Wow, I'm surprised I knew that. Like, every season is dragged out and doesn't have those playoffs. Like, no, as far as I know, no traditional sport has that. So like, there's always a lull at some point in the season where it's like, okay, we don't need to. Like, who cares about the, like, random, like, week 12 games in the NBA? Maybe super fans. I don't know. I don't know what you do there, but I'm hoping
other sports also aren't watched on Twitch, and they are regional, and multiple games at the same time. And
you're not wrong. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the owners and the people who are running the league have thought this out at least a little bit.
And I can test Deep Deathblow. I do remember all the stage playoffs, by the way. This whole like, I just, everyone forgets it. I don't know. I personally don't, because the best games.
Well,
London beat New York State 1.
If you studied them before the show.
No, and Valley 1/3. And not to mention, Dallas made a good run. And, like, you remember those teams with a run to redeem themselves for stage playoffs. We could say the same thing. We're going to remember the same thing about Valiant and Houston. This stage, did Houston make the play? Yeah, they did. And they got bombed out. Okay. Well, see, I struggle to remember for like 2 seconds, but anyway, the game quality is so much better that I at least remember. But maybe that's just
it was London, New York, LA, Vancouver, Shock, and Dragons. Okay, so I mean, I remembered them, and I'm an idiot, so I don't know who's
boom,
doing that.
checkmate.
If I actually go to list them, I can list them too. But I think
you just heard 2 people.
We are a poor sample size, right? Like, I think 3 content creators in a room are the ones that should remember it. But I don't think, I see it in Discord all the time. It's like, people like talking about when, I don't even remember, but they can't remember who won last year.
Fair
and
enough.
That's fine. We're more than your average viewer, average fan, but not to me. You're less than to me, because you're a New York fan.
There was a lot of people who think London's just overall the best team last year, right? And that's just kind of a hilarious thing to say. But that's also why I think we did more playoffs, because having a weight of, we're always going to have this where the game evolves over the course of a season, and the wins that were the 2/3 of the season are like a completely different meta. I think it's just going to happen year after year with new heroes coming out. Hopefully the patches are less severe now with 2-2 stabilizing it, but I think we're always going to see that ebb and flow. And then by the time it's like whoever's best at the end, which I know happens in other sports too, but they're just playing the same game throughout the whole year. So that's why I think that format works better for real sports. It's not like all of a sudden it's like, oh, home runs are worth double points now, yay! But that's what we do with Overwatch League all of a sudden, where playing GOATS meta, running game, then all of a sudden now it's a passing game. Like it's totally different.
Yeah. Well, what I will say is that our opinions on it don't particularly matter at this juncture. Now, maybe historically. We're deciding right now. Get your votes in on Twitch chat. We've been given permission from not Nate Nanser because he's not the commissioner. Pete Vlislavgis gave us permission.
That's it.
Snuffleupagus.
No, it's Vladnafislavgis. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, get it right.
Oh, I just got an email saying we're uninvited to the Overwatch League Grand Finals. Wow. All right. Enough on all 2020. We've beaten that dead horse, although it's going to be all we talk about at some point. But not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now, because all we're talking about right now is 2-2-2. We got roll lock in ranked. We got 2-2-2 lock in Overwatch League. The dream or nightmare, depending on where you fall in the camp, has come true, and this is the world we're going to be living in just a couple of days. Freedo, I know this is your baby. This is why you wanted to come on in the first place, so I'll give it to you to start.
Freedo's been talking about 2-2-2 Rolex since before Gosu Gamers started doing Overwatch weeklies.
Yes, predating esports, which it was interesting because IGN wrote an article thinking that it came in just to stop GOATS meta, which just couldn't be further from the truth. A really stupid article. If you want to have a laugh, read that. That Rolex is bad for the league, but. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about 2-2-2, but the first area that I want to tackle is destroying the hipster mentality that I see from so many people saying that GOATS meta was the greatest thing that ever happened to Overwatch ever. I mean, literal quotes saying that it's the height of strategical depth in Overwatch, and it makes me want to
that guy.
just puke. I mean, some people also say EU's got the best teams, and they go to the Atlantic Showdown, and then all of a sudden they get wiped by NA. It's like, turns out some opinions are just really wrong, but that's okay. No big deal. But to me, what I actually think, this is how I describe it. I think it's a mass psychosis amongst everyone who's been trapped in the GOATS meta. I call it GOATS Stockholm syndrome, where they've been terrorized. StockGOATS syndrome. Yeah, exactly. They've been stuck with the GOATS meta for so long. They've been forced to stare at it like in some Clockwork Orange-esque brainwashing system.
Sorry to interrupt, but we need to get to the best iteration of the name. Is it Stockholm syndrome?
Ooh, I mean that's a little.
Anyway, sorry, Freedo didn't like it, so Freedo can go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I think StockGOATS syndrome gets right to the point.
Yeah, StockGOATS syndrome. Okay, anyway, sorry. Thanks for the big derail. It was on one hell of a rant, and now I don't even know where I was.
Freedo, I got your back, buddy.
Anyway, so, okay. I'm of two minds with this, because one of me wants to be respectful and also be like, you know what? GOATS has some depth. I understand that depth personally, despite many of these people saying, if you don't like it, it means you don't understand it. No, I definitely understand it. That's why I hate it, is because I know the biggest depth is like rotating your Zarya bubbles in a different way. It's like the whole thing is just about Zarya bubbles, basically. I'm oversimplifying, of course, but like most of it's just based on these cooldowns and where you're standing, and the margin for error was freaking massive. So anyway, I don't even know what the point I'm trying to get to anymore. My point is, I'm glad it's dead. And a lot of people bring up the competitive integrity argument of like, well, we played 3 stages of GOATS and now we're switching it the last minute. I mean, this did happen last year. I think this is quite similar to last year, actually. It's more drastic, but it's in the same realm where you have Tracer domination for months and months. All of a sudden, Tracer deletion. It's not too different to me, although... but in fact, it's more Overwatch, not less. The problem is that I think a lot of people who defend GOATS is that they see it as like a legitimate competitive thing, and I think it is as so much as it's a different game. Like, yeah, if you treat it like a MOBA, you're like, yeah, we're working with all the same tools, it's fair and everything, but in reality, it's not really Overwatch, and I think anyone who defends it needs to take a long think about if the game launched that way, would it be the success it is? And I don't think anyone thinks that, right? Which is why all the teams, despite even the top ones who succeed in GOATS meta, voted to have 2-2-2 come in. Like this is so necessary. It was, and my problem and the reason I get so passionate about this is because people actually try to make the argument that they should have waited longer or something. I'm like, no, this is a Band-Aid that must have been ripped off earlier, and just because they didn't do it early enough doesn't mean they shouldn't do it now, right? It's to me, the analogy that I always think to is in the zombie movies, right? You always see that it's either a guy or a girl, and their significant other got bit by a zombie, and the viewer knows it, but they don't know it, right? It's like you pull up the sleeve, and there's this the bite there, and they look at it nervously. It's like, oh, this goat's metavirus has been taking over my body. What do I do? And of course, they don't notice until it's too late, and the motherfucker stuff gnawing at its shoulder. Right? I'm sorry, I'm starting to swear, but the zombie has gotten too far. I know we love it, but it's time to put it down. That's what I'm saying. It's gone too far. Let's kill the zombie and move on with our lives, okay? Because this had to be done.
In Shaun of the Dead, the one guy was playing video games with the zombie at the end. Like, he kept him
Spoilers!
even after the apocalypse ended.
Spoilers!
Yes, in the comedy movie of the... Okay.
That is a great movie, by the way. Watch Shaun of the Dead. And
yeah, it is a great movie.
So no, I'm in complete agreement with Freedo on this. My only issue with it is that it was such a perfect time after stage 2 in order to implement this that I wish it had been done then. People complaining about competitive integrity don't share the same definition of competitive integrity that I do. Competitive integrity to me is one team given an unfair advantage over another one. And so in this instance, in order for it not to be, or to be a violation of competitive integrity or a problem as far as that's concerned, you would have needed to tell the Pacific Division about this 2 weeks before you told the Atlantic Division about this. Wow. Everybody got the information at the same time. Everybody has the same amount of time to prepare. So go. Okay, we've seen how many roster moves made throughout this past stage. Why? Because they all knew it was coming and they were preparing their rosters to support it. So I don't have any issues as far as competitive integrity is concerned. I think it would have been a little cleaner, a little nicer if it was done one stage ago. But yeah, I'm in complete agreement. You have to worry about everybody, not your understanding. You have to get the normies, the first-time viewers to stick around and to come back, and a meta that highlights Widowmakers clicking heads and making ridiculous flick shots is a lot easier to understand and be drawn into than a slow-motion replay showing that the Brigitte booped the Reinhardt and 3 frames ahead of when he needed to, so that way 4 people died to the bomb, isn't near as fun for the viewer that's coming in and watching for the first time. It's often very difficult for trained eyes to figure it out at full speed on the fly. So I think you're going to get a better broadcast out as a result of this. You're going to get better fan interaction. And were we really going to go a full season without letting the DPS players have their heyday and really shine? Right. We saw how fun that was when it kind of happened organically on its own this past stage, right? We were talking about how great the run for the Shanghai Dragons was. It wasn't because of their GOATS play, right? It was because of how good their DPS line was and what they were able to do. Getting more of that is going to be more fun to watch. It's going to be more fun to spectate. The timing's a little unfortunate. That's my only downside.
Yeah, here's the thing. You can take the competitive... I agree with you, Deathblow, the competitive integrity thing. It's not like they secretly told some of the teams earlier than the others. It's not like every team didn't have the same chance to react. Now, are some teams already suited better than other teams? Sure. That's going to happen no matter what. There were some teams that were more suited towards GOATs, so throw that argument right out. I'm not even going to look at competitive integrity because you know what? That's only one small facet of it. And at the end of the day, the teams being... At the end of the day, for the success of the league, the teams being all equal on the same exact equal playing field is only a small fraction of what matters for the league's success. What needs to happen is we need viewers, we need retention, we need people to be having fun watching the game, and we need new people to be able to understand the game. Now, I'll give it to you, all of you GOATS truthers or your StockGOATS syndrome people. You know what? You've got... Your 5 heads, your wrinkle brains, you know what? You're great. You're great people. Maybe you put out content. Maybe you don't. You know what? Maybe you understand the game at a higher level than most people. That's great. You are awesome for that. But here's the thing. We need all of the schmucks like me who are coming in with smooth brains, who just want to watch the game and have fun. You're not... When you're trying to entertain someone, whether it's a sport, whether it's a comedy show, whether it's... You're not... always appealing to the smartest side. You're not always appealing. Like, some of it is emotion. Some of it is just like emotion and like feeling like this is a good thing. This is awesome. This is cool. We need to build that more so than like, oh well, let's calculate the chances that he gets his grab on time. Like you don't always need to appeal to logic and to reason and to that for something to be entertaining, right? We're not watching people list out chess moves, right? Like that, just because it's more complex does not mean it's better. I've made this argument a lot of times in other games. If you had before every ult, if the players had to pause the game and play a game of chess to see if they got their ult or not, that would make the game more complex. That will not make the game better, and especially for people who don't know what chess is. So like, I'm going way off the rails here, but like that's only one part of it. It doesn't matter, right? You don't need to have the most complex, crazy thing for it to be a good viewing experience. In fact, I would argue that it detracts a lot. Give me the Widowmaker picks. Give me the big offensive plays. Give me those. I don't want to see. I don't need to see the like 2% increase that's going to be in play skill that's going to make you that much better.
I know we're beating a dead goat at this point, so it's just piling on. But I just want to say I think this assumption that GOATS is more complex is BS, honestly, because it'd be like saying like, well, Counter-Strike.
I'm just trying to appease him, Freedo.
I'm
trying to make him feel better.
Wrong. Okay, like all the.
I'm the smooth brain here. Let me fall on the sword, Freedo.
Real quick, just setting up the same angles, getting space for your damage, getting the positions, the positional game, the resource game. It's just Overwatch, man. Like, it's Overwatch in both cases. Mm-hmm. Just when damage are played, you also have to hit shots more. The shots are harder. That's about it. Like, it's still all the same game, right? It's not like we look at CSGO and say, well, there's no strategy here, obviously, because you can just click heads. It's like, well, no.
Only people who don't know anything about CSGO say that.
Right. So, yes, it does appeal to casuals as well, but because there is more head clicking. But I think it's just a lie to be like, well, GOATS just had less skill shots, so it was only the cooldowns, right? This is still the same setups and teamwork and all that. Just you also have to hit the shots, which is why the butts are in the seats, okay, to watch that. Yeah. So, anyway, sorry. I asked to come into the show so I could scream into a mic about GOATS, and now I'm here and done, so I'm ready.
We're glad that
certainly not disappointing.
Nope. Let us know what you think about GOATS being dead. Tweet at us at our new podcast.
At YourOverwatch, White.
Yeah, get Freedo in on that too. I know he'll jump in regardless. But do we want to talk about 222 in competitive and how great that is, or do we want to table that?
I think if me and Freedo get talking about how much we've enjoyed our time on the PTR since Rollock has come out, we're gonna need a whole nother episode to fill. But I mean, we could talk about it briefly. My whole play base is like reinvigorated by this. I think we filled PTR 6-stack by like 5:20 on Friday, right? Like when usually it's like maybe by 11 we're all ready to go finally, maybe to play that day. Now we're all like chomping at the bit, ready to go. It's been great. I love everything about it. It was kind of like a triple bag. You got 222 roll lock, then you got roll queuing, and then you got role based SR. And to me, that was just like a 3-pack of phenomenal changes to the game that have so far, at least, and maybe it's confirmation bias. I went into it expecting it to be much better and had fun playing a game with my friends. Go figure, right? Like I have fun playing a lot of different games with my friends. But the feel of it was just very different. Some smaller stacks felt better. I still had a bad experience solo queuing, but I don't think I'll enjoy solo queuing in any video game ever for the rest of my life. Player game. Right. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm super pumped about it. I expect it to really up my just play hours and time. Even if all that happens is I play more on my main and I'm not playing on alt accounts as much anymore. And I can use my Overwatch League skins that I'm farming on my main account more often. That would be a positive, but I think we get a lot more than that. Freedo, you got anything you want to add as far as personal?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for hours. I think it's what the game needed. It simplifies the game in sort of an elegant way, whichever word I'm trying to use, where
eloquent.
I don't know. We're just making up words today. Most of them have been good.
That's what we do here for the most part. We've got pause probably, and what was the other one?
Oh God, why can't I think of that's not even the main one.
No, the big one is the one we're missing here.
I'll think of it. Keep going,
we'll
Freedo.
And anyway, there's sort of a downside where, say, you have a teammate who needs to play Sombra to hack Doomfist as he comes in or something. I think that's like an easy thing. You're a support, you're getting wrecked. You can't, like, screw you guys, I'm not playing support for you. I'm picking the hero that's countering the thing that's beating us. You can't do that anymore. But in some ways, I think that's more legitimate, if that makes sense, in that, well, you guys stack anyway, but I do attempt to wade through the dross that is playing with random people. And I think
Sounds dramatically worse.
Dramatically. There we go.
The cool thing about it is that psychologically, anyway, for me, and I hope it happens for everybody, where you realize if I swap heroes, it's in this role. So I need to learn how to deal with everything that I face in this role. So some people do things like, you know, on different maps, I like to play different heroes across different roles. And that really messes up the legitimacy of your SR when you do that. Because now it's like every map you play, every matchup you're against, everything, you're in this role. So what can you do from this role? If you can't win, you lose SR. So it makes it much more accurate. It makes everything much more stable. And in some ways that might be like some growing pains because people are going to be like, it feels harder now because there's less like they're throwing, we're throwing. So many percentage of games are just thrown on either side, right? Just on the hero select screen alone. It used to happen. So now you'll have to actually play the game to win instead of one team throwing most of them. They're still going to be throwing, right? But I just mean not having healers and tanks, right? That's gone. Now you have to actually learn how to play these roles, and the demand for skill on these roles goes up. It used to, you know, this past season, you kind of didn't need tanks at GM, honestly. Like there's barely any Orisa here or there, ball or whatever, but 3 and 4 DPS would just work because everyone's really sick at the high levels of play where they'll just go out and frag. Well, now you can't do that. You better learn the actual fundamentals of the game, and that might be more than what we're asking for, right? The community's like, yeah, that's great. I want to actually learn the game. Oh, this is hard. Hold on a sec. Wait, like,
wake up
I
call.
don't want to be tested now. Like, I don't want to feel responsible for how bad I am. So that I think that's going to happen, and I'm hoping that we're all a bit more welcoming of the difficulty going up, of it being our responsibility a higher percentage of the time.
Yeah, I think it's great. I agree with all the points you guys made. The other thing I wanted to mention that I was thinking about was like now, like for instance, Deathblow. Like if you don't want to, like on your main account, if you don't want to queue your DPS or something, we can actually play. You can have your masters and GM tank and support, and then you can play with me down in the dregs.
Play with my
DPS.
gold friends like Blevins.
Yes,
on my main account.
Yes, it's great. And like. I guess it's technically smurfing, but like they're like, oh well, that's still smurfing. Yeah, you're not getting rid of smurfing. People own multiple accounts already. But now, like if I ever got
smurfing, it's not even smurfing if I'm on a second account. As long as I'm like played an adequate number of games and you know what I mean, earned the rank I've gotten, and I'm not throwing or being boosted. Like
it's not if you're accurately rated, but if you like underperform to try to get there, then it kind of is.
Right, right. That's
if you're just bad at damage, then
right. I am just actually belong in plat in my damage, and so that's where I expect my diamond ranking that I got on the PTR will fall to over time, and I'll just be stuck there.
Yeah, I just think it's overall it's great. Man, the number of times like, because I usually go support or tank generally. You don't want me on damage, and now there's never going to be any pressure for me to go damage. Like I don't ever have to be that. I don't have to worry about like I should probably have like a soldier 76 or something that like I can play at the bare minimum just in case. Now I don't need to worry about that. I almost think it takes pressure off of me because it's like as a support, it's like, hey, the DPS has got to do it, right? Like I can frag on Moira, I guess, but like at the end of the day, like the DPS have got to do their job and I got to do mine. Okay.
Can you, Blevin? Can you?
No.
But
well, on Moira, you know, I'll put my Moira up.
What you just said did counter what Freedo said a little bit, because you need to learn to adapt and respond within your role, right? So if you're getting dumpstered by, and this was I think the hardest thing for me and my friends to kind of learn as we were playing. It's sometimes, you know, my buddy Yankee would be on support because we're flexing or filling around, right? But like, when the Pharah keeps killing him, he would just
Right, you
switch
just
to
go
the
to Widow
Widowmaker
and then-
forehead,
yep.
and he would deal with it, and then maybe go back. And now he can't do that, right?
Mhm.
So now you have to, as a support player, if you're a Zenyatta one trick, you have to go out there and pick up Ana. You have to do it. You can now deal with the Pharah. So you need to learn to counter things within your role.
Mhm.
Tank players can go to like Diva to help deal with some of those things. And so I think I love the point Freedo made about it kind of forcing everybody to go learn the game in a more complete
Yeah.
way now, as they have their 3 different roles. They have to learn to play within it. They can't insta-lock, their main tank, and then after 2 team fights switch to DPS anymore. They're stuck there, so they're going to have to learn it. And I think that's only going to help everybody to get better and improve at the game. And if you need to learn how to play the characters, YourOverwatch on YouTube is a great spot. So head over there.
I think it's great for the legitimacy of like the esport too, because it
Yes.
or the crossover, right? Because it's like every other real sport has positions. Okay, there's not
Yeah.
this like, well, Brigida's a damage for the pros, but for you, no one in ranked really knew how to play Brigida as a third support, and the player base side, like general player base, up at the high ranks maybe, but it's like, so that kind of inconsistency I think is just bad, right? There should be,
Yeah.
you should be able to be like, all right, this is my position. They're playing the same game as me. I can look up to better players, and we're all playing
Yeah.
the same type of roles, more or less. And it's got this like more casual pick up and play kind of feel to me, where I'm like, oh, just I'm not very good at support, but I can just pop in and play ranked on support and kind of feel it around. And you could kind
Yeah.
of treat your different accounts to different levels of seriousness based on you. And there's not this pressure of like, I'm playing ranked, but I better warm up my Widow, even though I'm a tank player, because of like the situations you're talking about, right? Like I know exactly what I'm in for when I press that button. It's reliable, and I can ease my way into it at my own pace. So there's complexities, as I've said, but also it's like
Yeah.
the normalcy throughout all the ranks and the pros, it all fits together, and the game has like a identity now. A lot of people said like it kills the identity of having 5 DPS or whatever. Like the game has an identity now, and I think it 222 feels like Overwatch to me, where there's the roles all distributed as you would want.
Yeah, it also allows you to min-max, right? Like, if you think of it like baseball or something, like, I mean, when you're a little kid, maybe, okay, you play all the positions just to see what you want to do. But, like, when you're older, like high school or whatever, if you're playing baseball, like, maybe once you get to a high level, like, I'm not going to be like, sometimes I'm the catcher, and sometimes I'm the pitcher, and sometimes I'm the outfield, and sometimes I'm third base. It's like, when you get to a higher level, like, okay, I'm a first baseman or whatever. Like, I'm going to do that, and for the most part, that's all I'm going to do, and I'm going to get better at being that, right? I'm not going to sometimes like, oh, well, whoop, we need you to go in and pitch. Now, that does happen sometimes, but not.
That's why
not
my
in-
career
not high
failed,
level.
because I was a flex infielder, and it just didn't work out for me.
Yeah, always second base, never a shortstop. But enough about 222. I think we got it. We got any last words, Freedo? Do you want to put a topper on this one? Anything else?
I've said too much.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on here because we do have some matches to talk about this week.
We'll go quick through them here, but Freedo, why don't we kind of give our general opinions on the teams the first time they come up? Just how we think they're going to adapt to the new meta, as well as give our predictions.
Because obviously, like, none of us really know what we're going to see.
We're a whole lot of guessing is about.
Yeah,
to go.
yeah. We do have to guess that anyway on the way of picking a match. So
True.
Yeah.
All right, let's start it off on Thursday. We've got Houston Outlaws versus the Paris Eternal. DB, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Houston 3-1 here. They don't have there's bad maps in this map pool for Houston, okay? And they're not in this match. So we're dodging Route 66 and Hollywood are the ones that really make me the most nervous. Obviously, just go look at their record on them. But yeah, I think the Orisa-based bunker-style compositions are really going to help Houston out a lot here. I think Muma's a very strong Orisa player, so I think they're going to adapt well to it. It was very popular, Orisa was in stage 1 when they succeeded last year as well. So I think they're well set up, assuming Widow gets back into action. Linkser can get his legs back underneath him a little bit. I thought he had a rough end to stage 3 compared to some of his past performances, so hopefully they can boost back up. But this is Paris we're talking about, and I think they get significantly worse in a 2-2-2 meta. They were a team built for, and that got signed because of what they did in the GOATS meta. I do like some of their DPS players, specifically. I think Shadowburn has some very good Pharah play, but I don't know how big a player like or a hero like Pharah is about to be in this meta. doesn't feel like it fits to me with the bunker style composition, but we'll have to wait and see. Right now, I'm kind of viewing Houston as a middle of the pack team and Paris as a bottom table team going into this meta. Could be wrong, but that's where I have it pegged right now. So yeah, Houston 3-1. Freedo, who do you got?
I tend to agree. I won't add too long, but I will note that we are, to my knowledge, going to be playing on our current live patch with a 2-2-2 lock. So the next patch that's coming up in the PTR with the Ryan buffs and a bunch of other small Orisa nerf and all this other stuff, that's not on the table. So we got old Brig and Rollock. That's pretty much what we're dealing with. So because of that, I assume you're going to see this as a running theme with my predictions. Ball and Orisa are going to carry a big weight for me, and Widow play. So because of that, I think Houston just wins based on those things. Linkser went against some hot Widows last stage, though. So yeah, he looked weak, but you're going to look weak playing Saya, I think. Against a lot of the other Widows, I think Linkser cleans up. I agree that Paris's DPS should be strong, but oddly enough, this matchup might be close because I think both of these teams plays the game too slow. So they might both like have points where there's a lot of downtime and they're trying to figure out how they're going to engage and what do we do in this meta? I don't know. We didn't practice for the situation, and there might be a lot of that going on. But I think in the end, Houston takes it. I usually don't do map score, so I'm confused on that. I can't say they take it in 5 because that's not possible for Houston. We'll have to go 3-1.
Blevins has picked plenty of 5-0s in his time, so don't be afraid to go 5-0.
Yeah, we don't need we don't necessarily need a map score. We just kept it as a legacy from last season because we were doing
when Pick'ems demanded you to pick map scores.
I'm going to be doing my best coin impression this week, so when we've got the two of you guys agreeing, I'm going to follow suit and pick Houston here as well. Next up, we've got the LA Gladiators versus the New York Excelsior. I'm going to pop in right here real quick and just put my 5-0 right on the table. Just stamp that right out. But Freedo, we'll start with you here. Well, who do you got?
So the weird thing is, I think both of these teams have shown that they don't like new metas. However, the meta we're going in, NYXL liked, because I think it's like kind of last year's meta in a way, with some of those heroes coming back, and they should just be comfortable anyway. But whereas Gladiators, I think, prefers to innovate on a meta that's already kind of stabilized. I haven't ever seen them like jump into a stage really early and hot, in my opinion, as far as I remember. Like usually they're sort of a slow burning type team. That being said, both of the coaching staffs are really strong. I think either team could take it because if Surefour is set up with his Widow play, then he gets angles and clicks heads fairly well. I don't think he's just the most talented player, but you don't necessarily need that with the way the matchups can be played. So I have a tentative NYXL pick, but I don't know how most of these players play Orisa. I don't think we've ever seen Roar play Orisa, and I don't remember a time when we've seen Mano play it, like ever. I can't even remember. I guess stage 4 last year. I mean, they got bounced out of the playoffs pretty quick before the double sniper really kicked off. They kind of refused to play that meta, in fact, now that I remember. So I'm concerned with that, but Mano is a sick player, so defensive tank play, he should be able to do it unless he can't track with the Orisa weapon, but other than that, they should have it. But potential upset.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. The concerning factor here, the only thing that has me nervous about NYXL is the Orisa play. It's not something we've seen a lot of, as you said. I've seen this narrative that NYXL is bad at new metas and slow to adapt and all these different things, and I just don't ever remember when that was, to be perfectly honest with you. It just feels like they show up, and if it's a regular season game, they win forehead, and if it's a postseason game, they lose forehead. And this is a regular season game, so
last season was kind of like that was the sandbag season.
I was going to say I buy into the sandbagging. I think that was their plan, was to, we're not going to address this meta. We're going to continue to play stage 3 meta because we are going to make stage playoffs anyways, which they did, and they went to the stage finals in that meta anyway. So I've never seen them be slow to adapt. So it's a regular season game. It's not against Vancouver. I fully expect the NYXL to be the better team here. I think there are some pitfalls they can fall into. For example, they've signed a lot of DPS players to their roster, and now they need to, instead of whittling it down to 0, they need to whittle it down to 2 of them and pick the right ones and use them correctly. So I think they could over-rotate a little bit, and I think they could under-rotate a little bit as well. But, I don't know. I got to see exactly what roster they're going to put out there. But I think as long as Libero's on the stage and some combination of mostly SBB with Pine on Widow means they should be fine. And they're very meta immune to me. I don't have any concerns about them adjusting or, getting better, in time or having to do that. I think they're going to hit the ground running and do fine. But the Gladiators did go get Decay, and they made some moves and changes in their DPS line that might level them up. And this is an environment we've not had to see them in before. So, the big question mark is Orisa, but then after that, it's how do they use their DPS rotations? But NYXL favored here.
Two things before we move on that I forgot to say. One, to your playoff thing, they didn't put Libero on the new Hanzo when it came out, and then just the stage playoffs, they take Sabiobi off it. They kind of didn't look comfortable in the Goats met, I think, for the majority of it, even though they were one of the top teams. So that's my defense to that. But regardless of any of that, if you guys haven't already, check out on the NYXL YouTube page. I did do a video about them called Will NYXL be the best 2-2-2 team, which I think there's a chance that they are. And it depends. Mano's tank. I hate to question my man, Mano. I love him. But if he's a good Orisa, they might actually be the best 2-2-2 team because of how the strength of the flex support and all their DPS. Like, they seem pretty set on every position. So
Mano's leveled up so much, in my personal opinion, this year that it's hard to imagine him not succeeding, but it's just a hero we've just not seen. So it is true. It is the big question mark.
It's also hard to imagine that they ever played Janice over him last season, but those days are over. I don't need to. I've woken up from that nightmare, thankfully.
Still bitter about it.
I'm still so mad. I wake up in a cold sweat imagining that we're playing against Seoul on Horizon Lunar Colony, and Janice is just jumping in time after time and dying instantly. Okay, I'm getting mad. We'll move on here, and we will talk about the Guangzhou Charge versus the Philadelphia Fusion. DB, who do you got?
Well, there's only one man that matters in this match, and his name is Fraggy. The power of the beard. It's his revenge game. Guangzhou Charge 4-0, unless Fraggy doesn't play, and then Philly wins roughly 7-0, I think, at that point. No, honestly, this is going to be really tough. I hope they put Fraggy in because I think he will, really be amped and pumped and ready to pop off for this matchup if he does get to go against his old team. It's really, really difficult. If there's a player out there that can just match Carpe toe for toe in the winnable, like just stealing fights from nothing, it's probably Happy. So it's going to be, I think, really, really close. I will give the slight nod to Guangzhou here. I'll call it like an actual 3-1 maybe. But I do flip it if they're not playing Fraggy, because I've seen so many of those revenge game storylines pay off in traditional sports. I'd like to think he's had enough time to gel with the team where they're going to be able to
and in OVerwatch League, honestly.
Yeah.
Neko,
there's been plenty of that
Fissure,
Gamsu.
Everybody that's ever played for London, except for the 6 that are there now. But yeah, so we've seen a lot of that, and I think he's going to be pumped and he's going to be ready to make big plays. So if Fraggy's playing, I think that gives them an edge over Philly, who's just going to remain inconsistent, but at least have Carpe to bail him out sometimes now.
For me, I don't know how I feel about Fraggy. If he does play, I think he will upstage Sato, like win or loss, more than likely. I think he will look like the better tank. But the main carry that is going to take them over the line, I think, is Happy. And most notably, I voted Carpe MVP last year, okay? I thought that's how good I thought he was. I thought he was literally the one player that you could not take off a team. And that's how I define MVP. And there's a big debate over what MVP means. But to me, he was literally the most valuable player. That being said, I ain't seen anything from him since last year. Like, even when he's gone to the Widow this year, he doesn't look comfortable. And Happy does look comfortable. I mean, he bodied DM, who is deemed the best right now. So that makes me quite scary for Carpe. Granted, he probably has been warming it up, but there's a chance that all those hours on Zarya have numbed his brain and he's now done. Like,
smoothed it right out.
Sometimes smoothed it right out. Right? Yeah, there's a chance, man. I don't know. I haven't seen Carpe look as hot, and Happy has looked good all year every time he's gone to the Widow. So I'm concerned there. EQO pretty stable and will hold his own, but I think the Widow matchup and the tanks and Widow really go a long way with me. So I take Guangzhou Guangzhou Charge taking this upset. Also, my last point, Philly tends to not really look comfortable early in stages. They look like they just rolled out of bed and it's sort of like, oh, just get in there, DPS, do what you do. And it doesn't look like they're as tight, which is not a knock against their coaching, by the way. I think their coaches are actually sick, but it's like they've got those communication problems. Again, these two teams very similar with their communication. So it could go sloppy both ways, but I think Happy cleans that up in the end.
Philly also bad in odd number weeks, and when they play in the third match of they're just super inconsistent. So really anything can happen in any Philly match at all times.
Yeah, this one is super close. I'll agree with you guys with on Guangzhou here though. Let's move on here and talk about Shanghai Dragons versus Vancouver Titans, the rematch from the stage playoffs. We'll start with who wants it.
I think I went with first last time. So
all right, Freedo, we'll go with you first.
So I wrote my notes down. I think it could go close. However, we're about to have a rude awakening on. All my predictions are going to fail if like Widow's not even picked or something. But like, I really think Widow's a really big deal in this format. And Stitch, he doesn't. I mean, he's played Widow in the contenders level, but it honestly it feels like back in the N64 days or something. Like it feels like so long ago that like
he was a great odd job in Goldeneye.
I know, like slaps only or whatever. I like that. That's how long ago it feels. Yeah, whatever. Thanks, a true OG. I like Stitch as a player, but the here's the thing: Runaway was built as a team in the old style of esports, which what I mean is in old esports, you used to be able to have a ragtag group of friends who had some weaknesses, but some strengths, and they could flip their roster around. And then Bumper, if you don't know, Bumper's played like 4 different roles or something over the course of his career. He's just now on main take, learned that too. He's been on Lucio, Diva, you name it, basically. And that adaptation of like a tight group is sort of an old esports thing. Overwatch League is super powered. We're getting the best players and the best coaches, and you better not have a weakness ever, otherwise you're seeing the bench forever. And to me, until Stitch steps up to the plate and says, nope, I belong in the Overwatch League and competing at the highest level on one of the hardest picks, I'm afraid for him because he looks like a good player. There's just so many good players out there at the hit scan position that I think he might fall below the pack a little bit. He has looked good when he has been able to play the damage, but they've also been steamrolling people. Anyway, long story short, I think Shanghai Dragons take this matchup. Diem and Ding are better than their counterparts right now on damage, and they could level up, but I think on that very day, so early in the season, kind of warming up to 2-2-2, the level won't be there yet because the Dragons have been drilling their DPS tactics. By the way, side note, little sidebar here. Some people think 2-2-2 damage comps are different than 3 DPS damage comps. Not as much as you would think. They're slightly different, but the difference between goats and any damage is massive. And the difference between 3 damage with like a weird flex and Young Jin's in there playing Doom or Brig or Hog or whatever, that is much closer to the meta we're about to go to. So they've been playing something closer to this meta for longer and succeeding with it, beating everybody. So, True. Dragons.
Death, who you got?
I'm going to be taking Vancouver here 3-1. I have more of an Orisa question about Gamzu, I think, than I do about Bumper. I think Bumper's flexibility gives me just that little bit more confidence. I mean, it's not a hero we've seen him play, but we've seen him play a lot of heroes and play him reasonably well. I don't know that we've seen Gamzu really function on the Orisa. And I know with his time in Boston, they had a lot of trouble coming outside of a dive meta and going into anything slower, more death ball-y. So this isn't quite that. And obviously he's showed us his Reinhardt's just fine in his time at the Shanghai Dragons. So it could have been more of a Boston problem than it was a Gamzu problem. I'm very open to that as well. But also Shanghai has these new pieces, right? Like, are they going to be playing as Iaki in this game, or are they not? Is that going to cause them any problems or misfires, or are they just going to be playing Luffy again? So there's more just indecisiveness and indecision to me about Shanghai to really give them more of an opportunity here to get the upset and to beat Vancouver. But they've lost once in the regular season, and it might be a whole new world and a different form. All these things can be different, but at the end of the day, looking at their roster, I never had concerns about them going into a 2-2-2 meta. It was hard to imagine a meta where their DPS players were going to be lackluster, even if Shanghai's are a little bit better. I just think the Vancouver team synergy, everything like that, it's been clicking for so long. I expect it to carry over and them to be fine here. So I'll be picking Vancouver 3-1 until they give me a reason not to.
So we do have the first opportunity for me to actually be the coin tiebreaker here. I will say Shanghai Dragons obviously looked amazing in the stage playoffs, beating even the Vancouver Titans here. The one thing that I'm going to fall back to is that we've seen Vancouver Titans play against teams, even week to week, where one team, where they played it really close against the team. I'm thinking Guangzhou Charge jumps to mind, where they had a 3-2 victory, or they had a 3-2 barely victory against them. And then I think it was the week after, maybe 2 weeks at most, they just completely stomped them. Either they changed their mindset, or they're really looking at tape and really evaluating that. But they have shown the ability, unlike I think at least some teams, to take a loss or a close game and really improve upon that. And come back strong the next game. So I'm going to pick Vancouver here in the tiebreaker, though. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Shanghai. They are the hot streak. They are the hot hand right now, but I think Vancouver has shown their ability to improve and adjust on a week-to-week basis.
Dragons tank line is definitely the weak point. I'll agree with that. And also, that's what Shock was starting to exploit. There was a lot of the Halt Hook interactions that in those 3 maps that they're running back, Youngjin's just getting hooked over and over again. And it's hard to know who to blame in that. Sometimes it's the Orisa. Like, if your Orisa doesn't shoot the Halt first and they shoot it, your Hog just dies. Like, there's nothing you can do. It's, so it might be Gamsu who's at fault there. But his ball is good. But we'll see.
Freedo likes Gamsu's ball, confirmed.
Nice.
Moving on to Friday, we've got Toronto Defiant versus the Washington Justice. Deathblow, who do you got?
I mean, I don't want to say these words, but we're talking about 2 bottom table kind of bad, poor performing teams here meeting up. And both of them have made significant changes to their roster leading into this 2-2-2 meta. And I just think Toronto's had these pieces around longer. As much as I think Lulish and Elevon are going to really help the Washington Justice and make them better, I just think Toronto has a head start here. They've had these pieces in, they've had them on stage with them already. We've seen how good Logix has looked in his limited time on a team that wasn't performing well. So I think that's going to be able to continue. Corey's done the same thing though, so this is far from over. I mean, this to me is that's their chance, Washington, to get this win, is for Corey to just be unbeatable and to make it so they can't they can't do anything. I don't know that any of these tanks can play the Orisa that well. We've seen Yakpung play a little bit of Wrecking Ball. I've been far from super impressed, but at times it's been okay. And personally, I'm not sold that Ball's going to be a huge player in this meta. I think a lot of teams are just going to play the Winston because their players are more comfortable on it. There might be a couple that don't. But yeah, I don't know. I just have more confidence in what Toronto's put together to have it performing at a higher level now than what Washington's able to do on short notice comparatively. So it's a close one. This could easily go either direction, but I'll be picking Toronto here. Let's call it 3-1.
I will agree that Toronto takes this one, and these types of matchups are kind of so boring that I don't really want to say. Like, actually, the games will be good. The great thing about 2-2-2, the games are always good because, like, these 2 teams, not great, but good Widow play on both sides. Logix is looking, I think, the best on Widow from him that I think we've ever seen has been in this season, in my opinion. Like, he's looked like I'm ready to start and not lose a spot and define who I am, because that old me stuff is gone. And I love stories like that. Like that, it's inspiring, and a player that I really want to follow and watch. That then again, Corey's like one of the scariest guys, but they still got Janice, and no matter what we put Janice on, I feel like it's just a massive liability, and they need to move on from the Janice experiment because it's failed. So
I think they will, though. I think we'll be looking at different tanks for Washington.
Hopefully, yeah.
I mean, I hope not, because I don't want Washington to win.
Why sign them if you're not going to use them at this point where you're sitting eliminated? But
this is the one time, you know what? I say Washington. Start Janice here, because I don't want you to win. Yeah, no, give me Toronto here as well. Next up, we got Dallas Fuel versus the London Spitfire. Freedo, what you got?
Let's see. OGE took a break, right? Is he playing?
No, I think he's gone.
We don't know.
I think
Gone, like all the rest of the season gone?
No, we don't know. We've gotten no word on that. Well, he just stopped showing up, and they, as far as I'm concerned, didn't address it or answer it in any capacity.
Right. That's
I'm sure
troubling.
Bob will
terrifying.
chime in on too.
Yeah, Bob in chat will let us know if we're wrong on that, but I have not heard any word about why or if we can expect him back or.
Well, if he were to come back, sorry, did you have some?
No. Keep
news
going.
or-
I'll let you go, and then I'll update with anything we get.
I think OG would feel better in a 2-2-2 because it's the type of tank play style that your individual play matters more, whereas GOATS was heavily coordination and teamwork dependent, and it's like, give me this cooldown, do this, come with me, focus this. Like, it's a constant like babbling of communication, and I feel like that pressure wasn't up his alley, whereas when he can kind of be with his intelligent play, he's like Mano, but maybe even mechanically better, but never shows it on stage. Like, that's who I think he is. He just doesn't like actualize that. I think OGE is a key component to getting Dallas to turn around. But other than that, I am really afraid of just about everything else. Like, it could go close with the right prep, but I think if we look at, and I'm going against my notes that I put down here actually, if we look at Dallas's reputation with some of these pressure matchups, they just come in this year and fall over. And I think this could be one of those. Like, if Time was out there and you start him and you actually don't bench him, like they did in the NYXL game for I don't know why. Oh, AKM needs to play on these two maps so we can get reverse swept. Like, okay, like Taimu wants to play. Okay, we start Taimu, anything's possible, I think, with this team. But if not, if they play in roster roulette to try to, whoever starts, London could just run them over because Dallas have shown that the proclivity to fall down when big matchups are in front of them. So I am taking London, but I see a road where Dallas could make it close and even win it.
Yeah, I was just gonna update. We got Bob, Blazing Bob, who I take, whose Dallas Fuel knowledge I take as fact. Said OGE asked for a break, so it doesn't sound good. He thinks it's probably over for OG, but I guess we'll see.
Well, he said he could easily be back for Trill in stage 4.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think he necessarily thinks it's over, but it's we just don't know. There's just no information about who's going to be starting for stage 4. We're just guessing, but I'm also not super sure it matters in this matchup because from what I've seen of Gesture playing Orisa, I believe he is the best main tank in that particular hero. They won the stage finals last year I think in large part on the back of his tank play. Grand final. Well, the whole thing. Did I say stage?
Yeah.
Yeah, they won the league last year on the back of his Orisa play in the playoffs, and I thought he deserved playoffs MVP. If not for some flashy plays from Prophet, I think he certainly would have gotten it. And so, yeah, I think he's the X factor here. I'm a big believer in London in this stage because, in large part, because I think Orisa is going to be easily the most important tank hero to be able to play, and I think they've got the best one. Also, you're just taking the shackles off of Prophet and saying, just use your ridiculous mechanical ability to figure out what the best hero is and beat them with it. And now, so he's completely unlocked. And if Widowmaker's big, which we expect it to be, then you've got Birdring at least where he's at his best. So I think that puts them in their best chance to succeed. Like I said on Around the Payload last week, I'm going to give London the 4-0 here until I see something from Dallas. I've always thought Dallas would severely struggle in a 2-2-2 meta. I am not a believer in Zachary. I feel he's flopped and fallen on his face and on DPS heroes repeatedly when given the chance on stage, even going back to the World Cup. I thought he's given us some decent Hanzo play, so maybe a double sniper meta is Dallas's best opportunity to really do something here, but that also requires them to figure out then their Widowmaker play. And is that if that's Taimu, like Freedo said, if that's Taimu and he's popping off and he's playing like old Mu, then all bets are off. I could be very, very wrong about Dallas if that's the case. Also, if OGE's back, I think that's got to be a guaranteed, or this is going the London way as well. I've loved what Dallas has been able to do so far this season. I think the meta shift is at the wrong time. It's going to really hurt them, and I expect them to continue to free fall down the rankings here as we go through stage 4. But I'm not as confident as I've been in saying that, as I've been in a lot of other predictions earlier in the year. So take it with a grain of salt, Dallas fans. I'm not trying to bury you guys or be a hater, but I've been talking about how...
but just not here.
Right. But this is, I've been harping on this for a while. A 2-2-2 meta is Dallas's worst nightmare. I think they were better in GOATS than they'll be going forward. So yeah, I expect this to be an easy London win, 4-0, 3-1. So.
I believe in you, Zach. Nice kid. I like him.
Great kid.
He has struggled a little bit though.
No personal dislike for the kid at all. I hope he can prove me very, very wrong. I want to see more Western players in the league, and I want to see them succeed, but I just got to see it before I start to have faith in it.
Yeah, this could be the beginning. Fuel is one of those like middle of the pack teams that's fighting. It's like one of those 9 teams fighting for 3 spots or whatever it was. So they have a lot. Granted, so does London here, but I don't know. I've got no qualms here. I'll go with you guys with the London victory. Next up, we've got Seoul Dynasty versus the San Francisco Shock. Freedo, start with you.
Yeah, I have no idea who Seoul starts anymore, and
not Munchkin. Pro tip: not Munchkin.
I don't know. Do you want to take that bet?
I don't think there's actually an inactive roster designation. I think when teams say that, they're making it up. So maybe it's the WWE entrance we need. After one map, there's music in the background, and then Munchkin walks out. And that's
the least exciting or surprising WWE entrance. Like, oh, okay.
So anyway, in the full pick'em format, we don't really need to justify upsets as much because you can just be like, well, I'll just pick the better team here. The Shock should have more talent, better tank line for sure, and more just coaching and everything to win. But I do try to always open a door and think, like, is an upset possible here, and where could it be? And I would say, I think, and this is quite a controversial statement, but I think the Shock's DPS aren't as good as people think because they don't have an elite level Widow. Now, granted, Seoul doesn't really either, but Fleta has shown to be able to play it. Munchkin supposedly was a sick Widow, but he's on the inactive roster anyway. I don't know what Fitz even plays. I have no idea. I suppose he's a good projectile, I think, on Pharah, which Fleta also plays. So there's a chaos with Seoul and their skilled positions, if you will, with who really knows what to see from them. But my problem with the Shock that I think we'll see develop over stage 4, or maybe I get proved wrong, is that they have too much it's building wide rather than tall with their DPS category, where like if you take any of these guys out and they're just like Architect, Rascal, like they would start on any other team, but where's the other hit scan god that you put next to him? Striker? Well, he only plays Tracer. Sinatra? He also only plays Tracer. It's like, well, where's our Widow? And I feel like a team needs a Widowmaker, and that might end up mattering in this matchup. But I think that was very apparent in the finals as well for stage 3, where they go on to Dorado. You saw them pick the map. Why didn't you put one of your Widow players on stage? So now you're stuck playing Pharah Sombra up against Widow Pharah, and your Pharah just dies for free, and you lose the, like, I just feel like they have this problem that they have to confront. A lot of the fans think I'm an idiot because I'm like, I thought you should have kept Baby Bay because at least you had a Widow specialist, at least a guy who maybe middling performer, but at least Widow's one of his better heroes. I think I would say even better than Striker. People say Striker's Widow sick. I got to see it because I haven't seen it yet. And I've watched the film from that one map he got to play Widow on. Wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed in stage 4 either. I thought he was part of the reason why they last year inaugural season stage 4. Striker's Widow was only marginally better than Mistake's Widow. So that's going to be a sore spot for me. But I think they take it just on coaching and tank line and flexibility alone. Like I don't see a way that Seoul finds this, because unless there's some hero in the meta that like is better than Widow that I don't know about, that I'm not thinking about, and Seoul's just got that card and just exploits it. That's the only way I see them taking the win.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty different opinion here, though we get to the same answer in the end, as I'll be taking San Francisco to win here 3-1. To me, Architect on Widow last year was like a revelation for me. He came in and he was a projectile player, and it was, somebody that was supposed to come in and fill that role. And then he just was like able to flex to this Widowmaker and pop off and compete with and go toe to toe with the best Widowmakers in the league. You're 100% right. Striker is not an exceptional Widow by any means on that team, but I don't think they'll need to ask him to. And in my mind, I have Architect higher on my Widowmaker tier list that doesn't actually exist because I haven't written it. Then I do Baby Bay, though. I do think Baby Bay is underrated on it, as he showed stage 4 last year, and also in his time in Atlanta, he's performed pretty well. But I do think there's at least a higher ceiling here for Architect, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say Freedo might have to delete some tweets by the end of the stage after seeing some Architect's performance. But yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 here for San Francisco. We both got to the same answer, and it's because what even is the Seoul Dynasty? Certainly a solid Overwatch team, no matter which roster they field, but we're talking about them having to beat one of the teams that's been the best all season. And the way this could go wrong is, what is San Francisco going to do? Because you're right, they built wide, not tall, for their DPS. They seem to, Sinatra needs to go to the bench for this team, and I'm not sure they're going to do that. And I'm not sure they're built for that. I think they want to have Sinatra on the stage all the time, but
his calling apparently is sick too.
Is what is?
His calling is like core to the team.
I can see that, but man, it's just, calling is not one of the things I super worry about from my DPS players. Maybe that's a fault or a gap in my understanding of the, especially at the level they play. There's a lot more communication they do than I've done in my masters and GM teams they've been on and things. But yeah, it's kind of it's going to be interesting. And I think it's San Francisco's game to lose is the way I want to word it, right? Like, I'm not super confident they get the win here, but I think in a vacuum, they're the better team by a decent margin here. So I'll be picking them to get the win, but it's definite upset potential.
This historical Architect Widow, I feel like because the Shock went 500 in stage 4, it's just getting overinflated. Like he was one of the worst. Everyone looked decent on Widow back then. I think his fundamentals on Widow are average, and we're going to see that when it matters more, when you're going up against, there's way better Widows in the league now. Now, granted, it's not in this matchup, but we'll see. I'll check back in with you. You better hope, for Shock's sake, they should start Architect on Widow. I agree. I think he is the best out of all of them, but I think he's going to come up short. And you probably need him playing other roles as well. So you probably need, I think, Striker on Tracer maybe, or Rascal Architect is probably the duo that you want.
I think it's safe to say there's going to be some tweets going back and forth between me and Freedo during
Hey, if Krusty agreed, why did he put Striker on Widow? They had Striker and Architect on the same stage. Okay, so it looks like Krusty might agree with me.
If Krusty agreed Baby Bay was better than Architect, maybe he wouldn't have traded him.
Yeah, well, anyway, there's a narrative behind the scenes that Striker's been grinding Widow. That's what I've heard on every podcast. I'm like, okay, show it on stage. Yeah. Start him over Architect. I think that's a mistake, but all the San Francisco Shocks fans are telling me that I'm the idiot here. But okay,
if San Francisco does that, I'll agree. I think Widowmaker's going to be a weakness for them. They're going to level down as a result. But I don't know. I think I saw enough from Architect last season, even before stage 4. From him specifically, that I don't know, he popped. He had that X factor, but like I said earlier, I'm a sucker for big plays. You put 3 kills on a kill feed, and I might overinflate its importance.
His angles are smart. I think his fundamentals are just okay. So Fledo was the same with Widow, by the way. 2 players.
The opposite for Pine.
Yeah, Pine is right, and I think you need a Pine in going into the playoffs. That's why.
I mean, I want to see the Pine. I also want to see the Striker actually pop off. Like, I don't care about what's being said. I want to see if that is actually there, because I mean, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but like, if it's not the case, if Striker isn't up to that level, and he's not playing on Widowmaker, and he's not going to play on Tracer, what exactly would you say he's doing here is what I want to know. But, and I mean, we've seen enough top talent be benched in this league for me not to be that surprised if that happens.
Real quick before we continue, we should double time the rest of these so we can try to get in under 2 hours.
Yes. Speaking of ones that we can double time, we got Philadelphia Fusion versus the Chengdu Hunters. I don't remember who started, so we'll start with you, Deathblow.
Philly 3-1. I'm not big on either of these teams right now, but Philly has a gear that I've not seen from Shanghai, so I'll be taking Philly in this one. Or Shanghai, Chengdu. Sorry.
Ooh, oh, you're going to Chengdu. Okay.
No, I'm picking Philly, but I think I said Shanghai instead of Chengdu during my
pick, okay.
So I just corrected myself.
Yeah, I pick Philly as well. I think Chengdu's going to get exposed this stage when everyone's playing damage. That the dream of them being one of the greatest, they just picked it, and they ran the comp well against GOATS. Going up against other characters shooting you back, much harder, and it's not gonna be a nice stage for them. I don't think they're that great. However, Philly has the opportunity to always play in the dirt with anybody, so it could still go to 5 and then nearly lose, but I still think Philly win.
Yeah, Philly has shown the remarkable ability to lose to just about anybody, but also beat just about anybody. So, yeah, I'm going with Philly here. We move on to Saturday. We've got the Paris Eternal versus the LA Valiant. Freedo, who do you got?
I am going to say Valiant because I think Fax Orisa is strong. I think his calling for that team has really picked up the pace with their gameplay, which is going to have an edge going into even a meta swap. Like, even if they're not the strongest on DPS, or if for some reason Paris's DPS are strong, that won't matter as much with the macro play in full effect. So I still think Paris, like Houston, play the game too slow, and it's going to show up here in this matchup with a team that's really changed their culture in their locker room, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I like in the notes you've got Paris play like old men.
Hey, that was not supposed to. I didn't say that explicitly.
Okay, so that was me.
I should just deny I even wrote that. I should say you wrote that.
Okay,
I probably wrote it. I probably wrote it. It's fine.
It's hilarious.
It's something I would say because I don't give Paris any ground whatsoever. So yeah, I'll say it. I'm picking the Valiant 3-1 because Paris plays like old men, and they're just going to I don't know, get an arthritis attack and not be able to shoot straight. No, that's to me, it's pretty accurate. I think the best form of the Valiant roster includes space. We'll be getting space back on their lineup for them. So maybe the Valiant need to figure out how they're going to rotate their DPS play. Is Shaq's going to still remain fairly involved? What exactly are they going to do with that? But these are teams on different tiers. To me, Valiant are just a better squad. So give me them 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right, but man, I still cling on to that dream of Shadowburn just coming back and being amazing.
I didn't know you were a Trekkie.
Still cling on to it. I still cling on. Let's move on here. We've got Boston Uprising versus Guangzhou Charge. Death, who you got?
Man, I'm not big on either of these teams, but I guess I'm going to pick Guangzhou to go 2-0 this week and start strong. I'll give them the 3-1 win. So much depends on what their lineup is. Is Boston going to be bringing in Stellar as well as another pretty big question? Otherwise, their DPS core seems to have pretty big gaps in the hero pool, but I think Stellar does a good job filling those up. But yeah, we don't know what this roster is going to look like for Guangzhou. Boston was as bad as I've ever wanted them to be in stage 3. So I'm just going to hope that continues and carries forward. Not sure Fusions has the hero pool for this meta. I've never seen him play Orisa, so I don't expect it to go great since he doesn't even play Winston that well. So
yeah, I tend to agree. I think Fusions needs GOATS meta to actualize his playstyle, and now that's dead. So Boston's in some trouble. I think their DPS are slightly underrated, but they're definitely not on Happy's level. And Happy's just it's sort of the problem now in Overwatch League, where if you have some of these players that would have been good at a contenders level, they look, this could be a stomping if Happy goes off. But Color Hex is pretty comfortable on Widow. It's just that, does he win a third of the duels, half of the duel? I don't know. Like, I see him as sort of that slow aiming style that like a guy like Surefour can get. Not really flashy. It's not going to spider pine behind you and kill 5, right? But he'll take his angles smart. And Boston's a team that if you start undervaluing them, then they clean up their play and they somehow scrap out a win with just like discipline alone, right? And that with damage play, we have seen them do that last year, right? So different coaches though. So. Well, it's a big test. I don't know. I feel both these teams are really unproven, really. Like they're bottom of the list. So I'm taking Guangzhou as well, just pretty much on talent alone.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick Boston Uprising against anyone right now. But let's move on. We've got LA Gladiators versus Houston Outlaws. Freedo, what you got?
let's see. I think it's quite close, and I just couldn't pick Houston to win 2 games in a week. I think they're a team that needs prep, and I like Houston as a team. I like a lot of the players are cool, but it feels like they just always find another excuse for something, and it's like, oh, they ran a strat we couldn't prep for, so we couldn't adapt on the fly. We had no clue, and I think Gladiators are the type of team that does their homework, comes into a meta. Like, I think they're slow to adapt, definitely, and want to really settle into a meta. But I also think when they're like, oh, we're playing against Houston, they're going to bring some tricks into this, and it could throw Houston off. So taking Gladiators, if no other reason other than I just can't see Houston going 2-0 in week 1.
I'm not convinced that you like Houston, by the way. But I do think the Gladiators this is a tier conversation. I don't want it to be, but it is. I think the Gladiators are just a better overall team with more talent on them. I looked for the opportunity. I tried to find a way for Houston to win. Hollywood's in the map pool, so I really just couldn't do it. I do think it's closer than a lot of people think. I think people write off Houston just on spec, and it worked for him in stage 2, so they're hoping it's going to work for him again. I don't think we should do that, but yeah, the Gladiators are, to me, just a better, more complete team, and with a bad map in the pool, it feels very difficult for Houston to get the win here, so I'll go Gladiators, but I'll go 3-2.
I mean, if you're not picking Houston, I certainly can't either, so I'll go with
maybe Roar's Orisa is just terrible, though. That could be the key.
Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. We've also got Atlanta Reign versus Hangzhou Spark Death. What you got?
I'm taking Hangzhou 3-1. These are teams not on the same level, and I don't need to say much more about it than that. 2-5 for Atlanta last stage.
True.
Yeah, Monty on Oversight was saying that he was worried about Hangzhou's ability to go into a 2-2-2 meta, which I thought was an interesting opinion, but home base to many of these players because they played in Korea, lots of them on different teams for feels like years to me. So I think they'll pretty comfortably get back to that. If Ngushue can play Winston, well, look out, right? Like, they might be the best Winston in the league, potentially. I want to say, well, my comment about Baby Bay will be actualized at some point in stage 4, but really, to me, he just has to play okay and look okay compared to Shock's mediocre Widow performance as well. Whether one team wins or loses kind of doesn't matter. I think, he might show the ability to click a head or two in this matchup, but still for the loss. And again, on Baby Bay, stage 4 with Krusty, he looked way better. Like, we all remember stage 1 through 3 last year, and he looked terrible, and I agree. But with a better coaching staff, this is a pretty good test. But talent side, not enough talent, I think, on the team overall.
I'm glad you came back in strong with the Baby Bay, because I was going to say, it sounds like you're already mentally preparing to delete those tweets. But you came back strong.
Yes, gotta double down for sure. Sunday, last day of the week for the games, we've got Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty. Freedo, who are you putting is your victor here?
Shanghai Dragons, I said this about the earlier game in the week. It was basically the same thing, and Seoul's even more of a question mark. I mean, if Seoul, I might change this prediction if I see Seoul show me something earlier in the week. But right now, I'm operating under the assumption that it's a mess over there, like it always is. And Shanghai is just sort of like, oh, 2-2-2, pretty much what we just won the last stage with. So thank you very much. Just cash that in. So Shanghai takes this one. Fleta, though, with playing damage, look out, Ding, because Fleta's a sick Pharah, too. So a Pharah head-to-head could be really cool.
Would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, if they put Fleta in.
Yeah, if he's even on the stage, never know. Shanghai, I at least know who they're starting here. It feels like their game to lose, but they do have enough pieces that they might be trying to integrate. Like if Izzyaki has a rough performance or the team loses their first match with playing Izzyaki and he plays again, that sort of thing might switch it here. But yeah, I think you've got to favor Shanghai at the moment in this one.
Yeah, very hard to pick Seoul, especially without seeing their first game. Now, this could be a flip, like Freedo said, if they do come out strong against San Francisco, but it's too early for me to predict that, so I'll go with Shanghai as well. We've got London Spitfire versus Toronto Defiant Death. Can we scrounge together a victory against London here?
No, I'm very ready to be disappointed in my expectation that London has a big stage 4. This is where I want it to start. If it's going to start, they can drop this one, and I'll be just happy as a clam. But it's hard to see Toronto getting it this together to be able to unseat London, who I think is going to be very comfortable in this meta for stage 4.
I basically agree. However, I will say that the homework of these two teams, the discipline to do homework is completely different on both sides. It's like London doesn't study for the test, and Toronto's really been putting in work, because you can tell with their play that they've been changing things. They're trying new strats. They pull out the clockwork comp, which required definitely some film just dedicated to that to run on one map. Like, they're putting in the work almost in the way that, like a Gladiators or somebody does. So
it's funny you mention that, because Bishop got removed after a stage championship, right? In stage 1 for London, he was removed as the head coach of London, and I'm guessing in large part because of just the style, the level of preparation, all that stuff. Just must not have that. It clicked to me as you said that, right? That London's a team that just is good and gifted and has a plan but doesn't study super much, and Toronto might be the opposite of that, and I think that might have just followed Bishop over there with them.
I hate to make a reference that doesn't land for anyone in the room, but that this really reminds me, if you watch CSGO at all, French teams oftentimes did that. There's usually like one super French team in CSGO, and like Shox is like one of the most outrageous players to ever play the game, but goes out drinking before the tournament and just doesn't care, right? It's like, oh, if we lose, whatever. And sometimes they just play insane, and that's the swagger that I think London kind of walks around with. So because of that, some of these Mangachu and Logics, they're going to make this close, okay? They're not taking this laying down. Right. They have like their reps on the line. They're not like, oh, I won the grand finals last year, so I can, take a game off here or there. That's not where they're at. They're fighting to survive. So I can't remember if they're in playoff contention or not for the play-ins. I can't remember. I'm assuming yes. Because
Toronto?
Toronto.
Yes.
Right.
They're above Houston, I think still. So.
Yeah. So I could see an upset, but I am going to take London just on paper. But this could be a trap game for them, I think.
Don't beat yourself up. We actually specialize on references that land only for 0 or 1 person in a room, so it's right at home.
Yes.
You are Phil. You're
right at home.
Right at home, exactly. I mean, I'm certainly hoping for Toronto, but if I had to bet, I would probably not bet on them now. Again, dependent on how we see them perform earlier. I mean, especially if they lose to Washington, then
Toronto fell so far. They're in 18th place, but they're only 1 game out of 14th place. So very much in the running, but and it got the longest road to hoe.
Junkertown in the map pool as well, map 4, and Gesture, has made highlight reels playing Orisa, which shouldn't be a thing on that map. So look out.
Yeah, definitely going to be a tough one, but it would be huge. It would be a huge for their run, Toronto, that is, if they can win here. Second to last, the penultimate game we've got for the week, we've got Vancouver Titans versus the Florida Mayhem. Freedo, let's start. We'll start you off here.
No, start with me.
Okay, fine. We'll start with Deathball.
I'm picking Vancouver 4-0 because only an absolute lunatic would even dream of. You know what, Freedo? Who do you got in this one?
I'm taking Florida to upset. To make the upset of upsets.
Oh,
I mean, the same maniac that picked the Dragons to win stage 3, Vancouver. I mean, I didn't call out the NYXL one, but Vancouver and the finals, I picked them to win. And I know you forget who wins stage playoffs, but I remember because I picked it right, and almost no one did.
I remember. History forgets.
History forgets. Fine. Yeah. Even Tyrion wasn't in the history book. Sorry. They're bad writing. We'll leave that to the side. A different podcast. Okay, so here's my argument. Vancouver is not going to have enough prep time for both games with 2-2-2. It's a huge swap. They've only really played GOATS, a little bit of damage, just kind of learned Sombra at the end of stage 3 or like halfway through. So I think there's a lot of growing pains for them to actually be comfortable in 2-2-2 to even know who's starting, for example. Like, I think Suman Su's damage is pretty rough. Like, I think you get him off the stage, but maybe the coaches still want to try him out on a few things. I think you definitely need Haxel and Stitch, but I don't know how that's going to pan out. I think there's be some growing pains. And meanwhile, we've got players like Fate and Saya Player who I think absolutely pop off in this kind of format. I think the heroes that you're going to be playing are right up Fate's alley. And again, if I said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, Widowmaker is going to be very key here. And I think Saya's got the best Widow on the field. And this is another example of Vancouver having a Widow deficit And so it's not a huge prediction. It's not like definitely going to win. I'm going to say Florida 51%. Okay, I think they have a fighting chance in this one. Remember, Houston was looking hot, right? Hot in stage 3. Go up against Saya, and Linkster's getting bodied. And I don't necessarily blame him, but he did get bodied. And that same type of carry can happen this exact match, in my opinion.
Bringing up a sore subject doesn't make it any less lunacy. And also, 51% in the Florida camp is like 3,000% in the Florida camp. It's the same thing.
Well,
they've won some games.
Two!
Houston! They made Houston a playoff team!
It hurts my feelings.
All I'm going to say here is that Freedo, you pick Florida, which is really, that's my thing here.
I love it. Yeah.
So not to be upstaged, I'm making the early prediction that Florida has a 7-0 stage. It's gonna happen. It's happening here. They're winning them all. And you know what? Even though it's not, no, that's the claim I'm making. They're making 7-0 stage for Florida. I'm locking and loading it here now. You heard it here first. So that when Florida wins this against Vancouver, I'm gonna get the credit for it. And Freedo, having done the research and made an actual argument, is only gonna get a small fraction of the credit. I'm going to get all of it because they're going to win it all. They're winning this whole stage, even though there's no stage playoffs. It's happening.
He really forced your hand. No, they'll go undefeated. Florida will go undefeated in the stage 4 playoffs, guaranteed.
That's true. That is definitely true. But no, man, yeah, you make a lot of good points, Freedo. And I mean, I'm definitely picking Florida to win 7-0 this stage, but that's not going to happen.
And before both Fate and Saya are on the bench in this match.
I know, right? Tear my heart out right there.
Carry on, my wayward son, into the starting lineup. You are forever.
I will find you, Bare Hands, if that happens.
He's usually in chat, so you can just join us on
this. I Bare Hands, I can't save you from Freedo. He has powers.
He's a big guy, actually. I won't do anything. I've met him.
Stand by me. I'm bigger.
That's true. We are bigger, but I don't know. I that's a no matter who wins, I lose sort of battle there. But we won't talk about the content creator and coaching staff battle that may ensue. But we will talk about the last match of the week. That is the Boston Uprising versus the Chengdu Hunters. Freedo, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is the why do I care match of the week for me. It's tough because like Chengdu is going to, unfortunately, in the history books, be remembered for, or you want to remember them as this like the fire of the meta, and they're just going to like fizzle out so hard in this stage. Like they're just not very talented. Luckily, Boston isn't either, so I think this could be like actually kind of close, but I think Chengdu is just worse than Boston, and Boston will be better prepared, a bit more flexible as well. They have made plays, but I stress Chengdu's made plays up against tanks. Like they don't really go at damage and win. Usually if the enemy would like in those matchups when the enemy started to play damage, like they'd switch back to goats. Like, no, we just wanted to cheese and play something off meta so that we could challenge you in a weird matchup you didn't prep for. That's what Chengdu wants to do. And I think that's much harder to do in 2-2-2. You just sort of have to straight up pick the best stuff and win. Like, Widow, basically.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think I have a lot of questions about the tank lines for both teams. I don't think either of them are really going to excel in the meta we're facing, but I at least think Boston has the DPS firepower advantage over Chengdu. Despite, as Freedo basically worded it perfectly, right? Like everybody wants to think of them as the DPS team, so it stands to reason they should be really good here, but it's not how it works. And I think we're going to see Chengdu get to the form we all kind of predicted them to be when we looked at their roster when they announced it and said this is super underwhelming, and I don't get it because now they don't have that niche weird thing they can do that at least surprises the hell out of you and you don't know how to react to it in the moment. So now their greatest tool is now gone because it's something everybody has. So yeah, I even agree because I think Boston's going to win. That makes me not care about this one. And I normally don't get like that about these games. We have a matchup of two teams lower in the standings than this, right? And I'm like more excited about that one than I am this one. I don't know. This one just has a weird feel for me.
Yeah, and it's the last match of the week, which doesn't help for the broadcast. But that is going to be it for this crazy episode. We had so much to talk about. Freedo, thank you so much for coming on. Always a pleasure talking with you. Any last words, and where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, YourOverwatch YT on there. And like I mentioned earlier, really looking to see some people support NYXL video on the NYXL YouTube channel. Go there and leave a nice comment. It leaves good. It helps me out, basically. So I'm looking to work with them. And I know, of course, Blev, you're a big NYXL fan. So fighting the good fight over there.
Yeah.
Hopefully kick them in gear. Now I can full fanboy NYXL whenever and just be like, yeah, I am. I have sold out, actually. It wasn't difficult either. It's like, would you like to work with NYXL? Yes, I would, actually. They're my favorite team. So easiest decision of my life.
Easy. But
Houston's my favorite team now, but my favorite team is whoever paid me the most recently. So,
I mean, true. But that is going to be it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. But for Freedo, for Deathblow, I'm the Blevins. And guys, remember, it's noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
I'm actually going to go out on an even further limb and say that the Florida Mayhem are going to win the Season 3 Grand Finals. That's how much I'm digging in here. It's going to happen.
What a lunatic. I mean, one trap game in a week. I mean, don't expect me to go out on this ledge with you, okay? I ain't going that far.
Now, Bob, clip him going, what a lunatic for me. And can we use that as a drop for forever, Freedo? Just whenever he picks Florida, we just play, what a lunatic. And even if they are the best team in Season 3, every time Blevins picks them, all I want to hear is Freedo say, what a lunatic.